I was up early this morning, thinking about this very topic for some reason, and I thought I'd make a video about it today. Just thought it would be kind of something to do, something fun to do. I've been enjoying just talking about things I actually enjoy talking about, and this would be one of those things. Um, I'd say it's only been 3 years, 3 full years of the 2020 decade as of right now, but I think it's been the most intense in regards to just life events and changes. And I was born in 1997, so I've been through the zero zeros and the 2010s. Um, and the events in those years were all uh, kind of just, I didn't really go anywhere much as a kid. I didn't really have a bunch of huge life changes. Everything was a lot was just the same, really. Um, a lot of same places I went to visit, a lot of same people I was around. Um, but I mean, I guess this happens to a lot of people when they get into their 20s. Lots of things start to change, and I'm 26 now. So I kind of wanted to just go through some of the things that have been going on in my life just in these past 3 years. Um, like I said, when I was a kid, I grew up pretty much in the same house. I was born, my parents were living in another house in the same area, just a few miles down the street from where I really grew up. Don't remember too much from that house. There's some vague memories there. Um, but then we moved to the house that I grew up in, and my parents actually still live there now. Um, and I was living there up until 2020, um, the end of 2020, which I'll get into in a minute. Um, but yeah, I didn't really travel too far. I went to the beach every year, usually the same beach with my family. It's kind of the same type of trip. Didn't really go anywhere else. The furthest I went was when I was in high school with my friend. I went to Florida on a trip, and we didn't really do much of anything when we went down there. So it was, I don't know, I don't know, not really anything too different, I guess I'd say. But I'll start now with starting with 2020, and kind of like the first like events that I remember happening that year. So I was working for a church actually. It was a church I grew up going to. I hadn't really been going for years. Religion was something I fell out of myself, something I was scared of falling out of. But I finally just accepted the fact when I was in high school. I think it's my junior year of high school. Um, and so I hadn't really, but that place was very, I guess, comforting to me still, as I grew up going there. My grandfather actually worked there for a few years, or probably like 15 something years, maybe even longer than that. I don't remember how long it was. But I was there. I was really familiar with the building and just a lot of the people I had just grown up with. Um, and so that was kind of a comfort to me. And I was doing maintenance stuff, like facilities, with this guy that I had actually done stuff with, like kind of volunteered with in the past when I was a kid. I was still in elementary school at the time. And it's kind of funny that that was around the same time when I started there, like a year earlier than this. I was the time I was really getting into like extreme metal, especially black metal. Um, that was kind of an escape for me at that time, because the guy I was working with um, ended up not really being the person I thought he was when I was a kid. He's had a lot of anger pushed towards me. I understand he was going through things in his life, but it's never, I've learned over the years that it's never okay to push anger onto people, um, make people feel terrible about themselves. I already had self-esteem problems. That's something I've struggled with since I was a teenager, since I was going into middle school. I'd say I really started struggling with that especially when I hit puberty, I guess. Um, and this video probably will get a bit personal. I'm okay with that. It's something I just want to put out there. And if people watch this video, cool, and can relate to things, great. But this is kind of just something I'll probably look back on in the future, um, which is kind of what my YouTube channel is in general, really. But getting back to the guy I was working with, he was really making me not feel great about myself because I just didn't really know a lot of the things coming in, like a lot of the maintenance things. I had no experience with this, and they hired me to do this, probably just based off of my grandfather worked there, and they just knew who I was. Bowie will probably be in and out of the video a bit this morning, so. But by 2020, it wasn't too bad. I started to feel a little bit better about that, and I think the comfort was kind of keeping me there to keep working there. And my hours are kind of interesting. I was like working like 7 a.m. to 1 p.m. Monday through Friday, and then I had to go in on early on Sunday mornings because they had services on Sunday mornings and open the building up and make sure things were ready to go before the first service started around 8 o'clock. That kind of sucks sometimes later on. I'll kind of get into that because I had to get up even earlier. But yeah, so the first like main event from that I really remember doing in 2020, it was actually in February. I got hired by the church to paint the interior of a house. There's a lady that was on staff that I'd known for a long time that passed away, and her house needed to be sold and all their stuff sold, and that was like a whole fiasco the year before in 2019. But I actually ended up putting in a bid to do the job, and I got hired to do it. I was actually up against the neighbor. The neighbor was a painter, and so it was kind of awkward when I was going over there and the neighbor was wandering around his house like, oh, he got the job over me. But I'm really happy I got to do that. Some painting, probably the greatest thing that came from that maintenance job there was finding out how much I love to paint. Just like painting walls and rooms and stuff, and it's like therapeutic to me, and still is. I like to do it whenever I can. Sorry, Bowie's hair is flying up all over the place, but that was an interesting time because that whole week it took me just about 7 days, and I worked 7 days straight to finish that. I would go in sometimes like 6 in the morning, really 6 or 7 in the morning, work till about 12, and I would get off. I would take off around 12, and I would go to the gym, go back home to eat, and then I would go back and work for a few more hours. So I was putting in a good 8 to 9 hours a day, all through that week. I enjoyed listening to a lot of music that week, and this is a lot of my YouTube channel is about music, so I like to talk about stuff that I remember from that time when I was listening to the things that stick out the most. I was definitely listening to Bob Dylan a lot for some reason. I was really getting into him. I had like my Bose speaker thing that I plugged in, listened to while I was there, listened to music off of my phone. And especially, I'll throw the albums on the screen somewhere here, but his album from 1964 and 65, those two albums I was really listening to a lot. And I was listening to Igor by Tyler the Creator a lot. I got into that. It come out the year before. I had been a fan of Tyler the Creator for a long time. That was a different artistic approach for him, which was interesting, and I really got into that. I remember listening to Patsy Cline's first album. Um, then I remember listening to, I was really into Joy Division at the time, so I was listening to Joy Division albums. And um, I remember listening to Metallica's And Justice for All and Dark Throne's Under a Funeral Moon. Those are the albums that really stick out the most I was listening to that week when I think back to that time. And it was a memorable time, and I enjoyed that week. Doing that. It was a lot going on. I was just kind of going and going and going. And those days when after I would get off, I'd finally go home. I would just sit down and in my room and listen to a record, and then kind of like read and go to bed. I remember I was listening to Iggy Pop's the Idiot a lot at that time, and this was, I'd say, in January of that year is actually when I started collecting records. I had been collecting CDs my whole life, really, since I was a little kid. But I finally got into records. I was like, I'm finally just gonna take the leap and do this. So I would go home and do that every night. And yeah, and then so that went good. I think I probably should have asked for more money for the work that I put in. I guess I underestimated how much work it was going to be, how long it would take me. But that was okay. And then I guess like the next event in 2020 that I remember is creating this YouTube channel. Honestly, I just well, obviously COVID hit, and I started this channel right after COVID hit. It was probably like the end of March that year, and COVID was a crazy time. It was nothing any of us have really experienced something like that before. Everything just shutting down like that, it was pretty insane. Sure, it was very traumatic for a lot of people. It didn't really change my day-to-day life too much at the time. I mean, obviously things were weird, going out in public, but I didn't really go out in public too much at the time. And my job just kind of kept going. It was kind of weird when people weren't really coming to work for a bit of a period there. So it was just me and the maintenance guy kind of there every day. But yeah, I started this YouTube channel. Like, started going through my record collection, and definitely interesting to see kind of my growth over the years, my confidence building a bit. I was talking about things, and yeah, I think the thing that hit me the most about COVID was going to the gym. I loved going to the gym, and the gym closed down, and so I still wanted to work out and stuff. So I kind of made like a little makeshift like gym in my parents' backyard. I would go when it was getting warmer. I would go outside. So it was a good thing. It kind of happened right at the beginning of spring in a way. I got some stuff from the guy I worked with. He had like a home gym, and he let me borrow some of his free weights. And I tried to make like a makeshift bench area, just like really DIY kind of thing going on with that. And that was kind of fun, honestly. Enjoyed doing that. And yeah, other than that, nothing too spectacular really happened in the middle there. It's just kind of working, doing more painting jobs and stuff. I was enjoying that a lot. Just going with the flow, I guess, for the most part. I went on a beach trip that year in August with my family. We used to go to Myrtle Beach all the time when I was a kid. We changed it up this year. That year, 2020, we went to the Outer Banks, an area called Duck, a fairly popular vacation spot if you're from around here. And I enjoyed that week a lot. I look back to that time. It was fun. It was a fun week. We stayed for a long time. One of the longest beach trips we've been on. My sister brought two of her friends, my younger sister, and we got to bring my childhood dog. His name was Buddy. He was really old at the time. I think he was 16 years old. we'd never really taken him to the beach before, and it was really great to see him react to the water and taking him down to the shore. He just loved it. It was insane. Like we didn't really think that was going to happen with him, but he ended up loving it. And I'm so happy that we got to take him that week because just like a few weeks after we got back, he started having really running into health issues. He had like some type of stroke kind of thing. Some there's some specific name that was for it, but it really threw him off, and he kind of had a head tilt for the rest of his life, and he just progressively got worse after that point. And I'll talk more about that later. But he was part of my whole childhood. I think we got him when I was in fourth grade. Um, so, but yeah, then stuff really started picking up after that. I think August that year still sticks out to me a lot too. I was listening to David Bowie a lot, especially his Berlin trilogy. I was listening to Heroes and Low a lot, and I remember listening to Scary Monsters, Super Creeps. I was just super into him. Um, that really reminds me of that time, and but things really started getting wild into I'd say October, the end of October of that year. Um, I've been just like trying to find like an apartment to live in. I always wanted to live on my own. I was pretty sick of living with my parents. I just felt kind of I want to be on my own. I just feel I think I was 23 at the time. I was like, man, like what am I doing to living at home? I'm not saying there's anything wrong with that. I don't know why there's like some stigma behind me about that. Anybody can do whatever they need to do. I think it's great if your parents will let you stay with them for a while and try to save up money and stuff for yourself in the future. It's not something I was doing, unfortunately, but it's okay. But yeah, I eventually ended up finding a place that was out in this place called Charles City, which is here in Virginia. It's kind of a historic area in between Williamsburg and Richmond. Very rural area. That's kind of what I was looking for, and I just kind of hit the jackpot with this place. It was crazy. It was kind of a room that had a private bathroom, a little kitchenette, and it was in the upstairs of this historic house, like built pre-Civil War. So I had like the original floorboards, and I'm kind of a sucker for things like that. I love like old buildings and stuff. It's one of the reasons I love the city of Richmond and areas around here so much. I kind of geek out on things like that. But yeah, I got a call from this guy. I went and looked at it, and he said, "Oh yeah, there was a couple here before you came, and you got lucky because we're only renting this to single people, just one person." So it was $650 flat for them every month, which is super cheap, and that was like including all utilities, everything. It was incredible. I really wish I could have still lived there, especially now. I'd be saving a ton of money if I still lived there. But I loved it, honestly. I was there for a very brief period of time, and I'll tell you that about why in a minute. But it was far out there, but I enjoyed the drive to work every day, listening to music in the morning in the car. But honestly, the same day I moved in there, it was actually November 1st of 2020. It's the same day that I started talking to my ex-girlfriend. Her name's Hannah. I'm going to refer to her as Hannah. I don't like saying ex-girlfriend a lot. I just don't like the term for some reason. But she is my ex-girlfriend, and probably my first real girlfriend I ever had, first real relationship I ever had in my life. But I had been on dating apps only for like a week. I finally just gave in, like, I need to do this. like I need to meet somebody. Was tired of being lonely and alone, so I stuck myself out there. Ended up starting to talk to her, and yeah, I can't believe this really when everything started changing really quickly. Um, I I it just felt so right for me from the beginning. Just really, I had never really experienced that with anybody in my life before. Um, and I remember it was 2 weeks after we had been talking. We had talked on the phone a few times, just like we were talking every day. We were on Snapchat and stuff a lot as well. Um, and it all just felt so right with and just hope I can find that again in the future with somebody. But um, I ended up meeting her in person 2 weeks after that. I met her at a park, not too far actually from where I live now. Um, and we walked around there for a bit. And I remember getting out of the car and going and giving her a big hug, and it just felt so right. Like it's just what it is. It just doesn't feel right with a lot of people, and you just kind of know um, when it is right. Um, and we went to a drive-in movie theater. I'd never been to one of those before. It was a perfect thing with COVID still going on. That was a big thing that was going on at that time. We watched the first movie. Movie not very memorable, and then we ended up leaving. And we honestly just went. I had to pee really badly, so we stopped at a McDonald's, and I went to the bathroom, and she got an ice cream cone, and and we just sat in the car and just talked. We remember we were listening to Taylor Swift. She was a huge Taylor Swift fan, and we ended up kissing each other, kissing a bit. That was the first time I kissed somebody in probably almost 7 years. It's crazy. I hadn't really been in relationships with people since high school. So that was honestly kind of a magical night. And I remember it was getting late, and it was Saturday. It was a Saturday night. I was still working at the church, so I had to be up early the next day to go open the church up. But normally I would have been super anxious about that, but I just did not care at all. It was getting late, and nothing mattered besides being right there in that moment with that person. So that was definitely a special time, and it would stay special for quite a while thereafter. Um, but yeah, I remember I went back to my parents' house that night because it was closer, and I just wanted to go to sleep. And I kind of like creeped in the back door, and I don't think they really even knew I was there that night. I had my clothes with me, I guess. I had some clothes that were still at my parents' house that I just wore the next morning to work. And yeah, then the next day, Hannah came over to my apartment in Charles City, and we hung out there for a while, watched a movie, hung out outside, um, and that was actually the first day I ever had sex. Told you probably a little bit personal here, but I didn't know if it was gonna happen or not. We were kind of just like sitting there later in the evening watching a movie, and it happened. It wasn't that great, honestly, but yeah, that was. My middle school self would be like, "Oh my God, finally, you did it!" Like I felt like it was like something you really like had to like earn, I guess, in a way in life to like be able to have sex with someone. I thought it was like this huge thing, but I've come to realize that people don't really look at it that way. And I guess if I would have stuck myself out there, I probably could have done it sooner. But I'm kind of happy if how it worked out. But yeah, that next week after that, it was just like I said, all this happening really quickly. Um, I was starting to go over her parents. She used to live with her parents, and I went over there to their house. almost every day that week. I was going over there, and just hanging out. I was looking forward to it every day. I just wanted to go and hang out with her. I have still another thing in my life I haven't experienced a lot. Just like wanting to be around somebody like that every day. Um, just really looking forward to that. Um, um, Sorry, the neighbors are rowdy right now. I don't know. They just some friends came over or something, but um, yeah. So I started going to her parents' house a lot, and I could tell they were very. Her parents were pretty wary of me from the very beginning, skeptical of me, and that ultimately would kind of lead to our demise in the future. Which, if you've watched my "It's Been Rough" video, that's kind of what happened. I don't know what these kids are doing right now. This is insane, but yeah, I remember that week. It was just very memorable for me too, because I just remember we just sit upstairs. We were watching the show Stranger Things and just various other little shows on Netflix. We would just sit and watch stuff together. I just can't believe how comforting that was to me. Um, and I really needed that. I think at that time, I think everybody needs that. Um, but it was super special to me. And we really started bonding over the Postal Service album. Um, and that really brings me back to that time and going back and forth to Charles City and her parents' house a lot. And yeah, like I said, I can't believe how when you really fall in love and being in love, how you can just your anxiety about other things in life just completely disappear. Like I can't believe how much of a high you can get from that. It's really interesting. Um, but the next big thing after that was beginning of December. Actually, Hannah had been looking for an apartment herself. She had been wanting to move out, and she we just her mom like why don't you just get an apartment together? Like I could easily get out of my apartment that I was living in, um, and I was skeptical about it at first because I really did like where I was living, but just the whole excitement took over, and I just gave in. Like, yeah, we should just do this. Why not? Just going with the flow. And next thing I know, we found this apartment, this extreme like luxury apartment in a high rise building overlooking the James River and downtown, the buildings, Richmond skyline, and it was just like insane. Like the apartment never felt like home to me. I guess it just was not me. Um, but I went along with it because it was exciting. It was a really cool area, and I wanted to be with Hannah. It was just what it was. So I made that compromise for myself, I guess, in a way. Um, but we moved in together, and it just always worked so well. It was interesting. Like you hear like horror stories of people moving in together and just not matching up and working, but it worked fine. Worked great, and yeah. That the next few months there were just us really exploring Richmond. I never really explored the city much, and I really just completely fell in love with Richmond, and while I was falling in love with this woman as well. Um, and anybody who knows me now and meets me now will learn pretty quickly that I'm kind of a fanboy for Richmond. I just love it here. I feel like I love it more and more every day. Um, but yeah, let's talk about at the Christmas of that year of 2020. It was a memorable time as well because Hannah actually came over to my parents' house and we had Christmas at my parents' house, and that was a huge deal for me. So that was Christmas was always such an exciting and special time for me when I was a kid, and that just took it up a few notches there. Um, and being able to share that with her, and we like stayed the night with my parents, and it was just really special for me. And I remember the next day, the Christmas day, so we went over there Christmas Eve and stayed the night. And Christmas Day, we went on a walk that morning, and then we kind of like went up into my room and watched a movie, and we were just laying there after, and I remember that was the first time that we said we loved each other, um, and it was, God, it's like it made me emotional now. It was just so special. I just knew that she meant it so much, and I knew that I meant it so much, and I feel like we'd both been like just like holding back from it, like trying to say it too soon, but it hit hard, and it still hits hard just thinking about it now. But yeah, that was very special. And then that evening, we ended up going out to my apartment in Charles City because I still had it for that month. So we had actually moved into the apartment already at the beginning of that month in Richmond, and I we just kind of spent the weekend out there, and that was really fun and memorable. There's a video actually online from a few years from that time, obviously, called Living, that I have on my YouTube channel, and that kind of documents that time that I did that. And so if you're interested in watching that, that's a bit of part of history of my life there. Um, but yeah, that was the last time I was in Charles City, which is living in that house. I ended up moving the rest of my stuff out soon after that, and that was yeah, that was I still miss that place a lot. I actually have a tattoo on my arm here of a tree that was out there in this field it was right next to the house. So I would go out in the field, and there was this big tree and then a small tree right next to it that was just kind of just sitting out by the main road. And so that just reminds me of that, and that's because I was not there long enough. That was my first tattoo I ever got, actually. And yeah, but now we're kind of crossing over the threshold into 2021, and what better way to bring that in with actually staying up until midnight? I hadn't done that in a long time on New Year's Eve, and having my first New Year's kiss. I had never done that before either. Not that really, I don't know if there's like too much meaning to that. I guess I look for meaning in a lot of things, but I don't really know many meanings in life. I don't know if I'm a nihilist or not, but that I still look back to that time for sure. It's looked at as a special deal for people, but I don't know how big of a deal it is for me anymore. Yeah, like I said, January, February, just doing a lot of exploring. I was taking a lot of pictures. Her mom gave me, let me borrow her camera. We were just taking tons of pictures of the city. Really enjoying the exploring time. And yeah, then her birthday was in February, so that was fun, kind of celebrating that. And I remember bringing her balloons home that day, bringing them upstairs. I was like hoping that they wouldn't see me from the balcony, looking out the window or something, see me walk up with them, and it ended up being a surprise and fun. Then 2021, I guess things started getting pretty wild when I guess the first trip I remember that year was in June, actually. It was great that my work was so lenient with me taking off from work, and we, I think her mom's uncle ended up dying. He was, lived down in the Outer Banks area, and so we ended up going down to the Outer Banks, made kind of like a little beach trip out of like that, and we went to the funeral, and I met a lot of her family, which is like really exciting for me. So I felt like they really liked me, and I felt like they really were welcoming me, and I felt good there in a time, and that was good. So traveled down there with her mom and her brother, and did some exploring down there. Um, and yeah, that was a pretty fun trip. And then the next trip was in July. Um, Hannah's work was based out of Charlotte, North Carolina, so we went down there, and we had been going to amusement parks together. It was the Kings Dominion and Busch Gardens that are around this area. And I've loved roller coaster for so long. It was so exciting to finally have somebody to go to amusement parks with and ride rides with, and I've been wanting that for a long time as well. But in Charlotte, North Carolina, there's actually Carowinds, which was another Cedar Fair park, which is the same as Kings Dominion here, was the company, and you can get a platinum pass to go to all these different parks like in the country that are owned by Cedar Fair. So we ended up going to Carowinds. We got our platinum passes. I remember standing in line waiting for that and getting our passes at the guest services at Kings Dominion. So we were planning to do that, and then planning the next trip after that. But Carowinds was fun, and Hannah got to go to her office down there one morning, the first morning we were down there, and I kind of just explored Charlotte, going around trying to find spots to take pictures of the city and whatnot, and that was a pretty fun morning. Then we ended up going to Carowinds that afternoon, and we went back later that evening as well, and the evening was really awesome, and got to ride a lot of cool rides, and yeah, so that was definitely a really fun trip. That was the first real trip of us just traveling, just me and her, and so that was good. And then August of that year, it was about a month after that Charlotte trip, we went on the big trip, and we started with riding with her mom and brother. I think it was just her mom, and her brother and dad came later. We went out to DC at Arlington Cemetery. Her grandparents were getting a proper burial there and proper service there, and that was a very interesting thing to see. The very ritualistic, militaristic ceremony that happened there. So that was interesting. And I guess I should go back to the Carowinds trip. We also, during that trip, after we went to Charlotte, we met her family up in the mountains around that area, and it was outside of Asheville, and that's where her grandparents wanted their ashes spread there. So that kind of goes in with this, and I met a lot of more of her family, some of the relatives that she had been talking about for a while, and I finally got to meet them, and that was good too. I enjoyed that. Everything felt good. But now back to we stayed in. Okay, sorry, I'm all over the place right now, but still with like the Asheville Mountains thing, we stayed in this very cool inn overlooking the mountains. It was just like on the side of a mountain, and I got to hike the mountain, one of the famous mountains around there, with her dad and brother, which was pretty fun event. It was cool to actually do some hiking like that. I wanted to do that for a while. Now back to August and the big trip. We went to Arlington for the ceremony, and that same day we drove up. After that, it was raining pretty hard that morning at the funeral and stuff, and then we went up to Pennsylvania, Philadelphia, and we stayed in the city of Philly that night, like right near like Love Park. There's like a big high-rise building we stayed in, and it was pretty wild. I'd never really been. It was like a luxurious building, and it was just like wow, like just never like pictured myself being there. Like when I was a kid, just thinking I'd never really been around. Like just never saw myself actually being somewhere like that. And like it was just places I'd seen on TV and movies and stuff, and here I am. I'm here in this place, and it was just interesting. I met one of her cousins that night that lived in the city, um, and he had a cool little house there, and went out to her relative's house outside of the city. A house I would go to a few times actually. That I'll get more into later. But yeah, that was pretty fun. And then we kind of explored Philadelphia. We had like a full day in Philadelphia. We explored around there, went to different places, the Rocky Stairs, Love Park, stuff like that. There's lots of skateboarding stuff around there that got me pretty excited. Skateboarding is pretty big around there, and so it was just cool exploring that city. Then that next morning, we got on a plane, flew to Cleveland, Ohio, and went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. We rented a car when we got there, and went to the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. I always wanted to go there. That was fun. That was interesting. Lots of cool stuff in there. It was the same day that a Cleveland Browns football game, a preseason game was happening that day, so it was a lot of people there, but um, it was fine. And then we drove to a place called Sandusky, Ohio, which is about an hour west of Cleveland, and that is where Cedar Point, the roller coaster capital of the world, they say, is there. And I had always wanted to go there. I've been wanting to go there for so long, and I finally did it. And we stayed in this little Airbnb right across the water from there. It was really awesome. I really loved that Airbnb. It's probably one of my favorites we ever stayed in. And then we went to the park, like 2 full days at the park, and I just had a blast. I really had always wanted to do that, like I said, and it was really a special time to be able to finally go to that park and spend that time with that person. It was really special. I always wanted something like that. Then we ended up going to Detroit. Drove to Detroit to visit. Well, one of her friends, her good friends from high school, was living there. We stayed in a pretty cool Airbnb there, but that Airbnb wasn't as comfortable. It was super hot. There wasn't really any air conditioning, and not the best one. It was kind of a cool old house, but yeah. So we explored Detroit a bit. Had dinner with her friend twice that trip. Um, then we went down to Cincinnati, and I was hoping one of my friends was actually my childhood friend, like my brother, basically, was living down there. I thought he was living down there, but he had actually moved to Texas, and I was like, oh no, like I was hoping I could visit you while we were down there, but that was okay. We went to Cincinnati to go to Kings Island, which is another amusement park, and I always wanted to go there too. And my dad had gone there when he was a kid. Well, I guess he was a teenager. He was working for Kings Dominion here in town, and they went on a trip up there to visit the sister park. So it was really cool seeing that place too, and we got to ride roller coasters and all that, and so that was fun. I liked the Airbnb we stayed in there too, and then we flew home after that, and that was the most intense trip I've ever been on. Something I'd always wanted to do. So that was very memorable, and yeah, the rest of that year, pretty just honestly just loving life, just having a good time. Remember Halloween that year? I was growing my hair out to dress up as Link from Zelda, and that was fun to do that. I dressed up as a Gerudo woman when from Breath of the Wild. um, when Link dressed up as one to get into the Gerudo town, and that was fun. Went to a little Halloween party. I was super nervous, not good at talking to people, and it's just like I don't know what to talk about with people, and within social settings like that, it's hard sometimes for me. It's just like stuff I just don't want to care to talk about, and stuff I feel like I can't talk about with people. Um, but yeah, that was fun, and then Christmas that year ended up being good again. We did this kind of the same thing as the year before, and but that's where another big thing started happening. Christmas of that year, 2021. Um, my um, Hannah got me a 23andMe kit, which is a DNA test. You can find out your ancestry, see all your old ancestors if they have profiles on there. Um, and I was really cool. I was like, oh yeah, like I can finally. I kind of wanted to know like what my background was. Like, turns out I'm like 98% European. Obviously, a white guy. A lot of my nearest ancestors were from Great Britain. It said. Um, I had some Jewish in me, some Italian, just like small amounts of those things. Mostly a Brit, but so that was cool to find out. But the thing that really made a turn for events here was I ended up having a half sister on there that I had never heard of. And this might be a story I could maybe make eventually in the future more. Sorry, Bo's walking around, but yeah, I ended up finding out my mom had actually cheated on my dad in the 90s when he was traveling a lot, and my dad that raised me, that I'd been with my whole life, ended up not being my biological father. That took a big hit on me a little bit. I think I was kind of in shock for a bit there at first, and I didn't really do too much about it. Didn't really want to. I like was scared to like mess everything up. And my dad still doesn't know to this day. But what really, I think I do want him to know in the future. I want to tell him, but I have a good relationship with him right now, and I'm scared to see what's going to happen with that. I don't want to get too in depth with this right now. But if you are interested, I could make a video just about that. But Hannah was really freaking out about that situation. Made her very anxious, holding the secret, and my mom was not really cooperating, and my mom started showing her true colors a lot, which is unfortunate. Really trying to avoid the situation. Still doesn't really talk to me today very much because of that. But yeah, so that really kind of shaped 2022. Going through that a lot, and dealing with that. A lot of that was a huge life change. Even though it didn't really change too much, but just knowing the fact and just kind of trippy and weird in a way. So yeah, 2022 events, still just kind of like loving life, having a good time with Hannah a lot. Even though she was really worried about that situation with my family, and that was kind of taking a toll on me, making it worse for me, I guess. And yeah, I guess I could talk about just like we did a few little trips that year. Nothing too extravagant like the year before, but just kind of mostly around here. Those were great. Just had a good time with her. We went to DC a few times. Went back to Philadelphia to see Charlie XCX. perform. We went and saw a lot of music together that year, and actually started getting into more like small shows that year too, like punk shows and stuff. And Hannah was not into that at all, so I was doing that a lot by myself. Really, was excited to find the underground music scene. So that was really exciting to me that year. Um, but yeah, I don't really not thinking too much about huge events that happened in 2022. I did end up meeting my half sister at the end of that year. She came to town and she stayed with us. There's a little apartment um, that you could rent out for the nights downstairs in our apartment building we're living in. And yeah, I guess the around that time too, um, I was, as I told you, I never really felt that comfortable in that apartment. I really have been wanting to go out or move somewhere else. I wanted to live in like a house, more like a comforting place for me. So Hannah was open to that, and we started looking for places. And she ended up buying a house, and that was another big turn of events that happened. And I kind of started, everything started going downhill, I think, after that to an extent. Um, she bought the house. I was fairly comfortable in the house. I liked it better than the apartment. The apartment was an exciting place, and it was hard to leave there. We lived there for 2 years. Um, but after we moved to the house, I liked it there. Yeah, we moved in there, and we got settled in there. And the thing I want to mention was that I didn't mention from 2021. That was a big thing too. Was getting our cats at the time. Bowie was the first cat we got, which is the cat I still have now with me. We got her in February of 2021. And then a few months later, we got a cat named Gus that we ended up naming Gus. And he is still with Hannah now. And I've been missing him a lot here recently. He was a good cat. He was Bo was always really scared of him. He was bigger. He was a male. Bo is a small female. I think she's just anxious in general. She always has been. She can be a bit of a headache at times, but I think I keep falling more and more in love with her every day. But yeah, the cats was a big life change for us too. When we did go on this trip, we had to get people to watch our cats and went out of town, and that was a huge deal. Just learning about having our own pets, that was a pretty big deal too. And they brought a lot of joy to our life, but also a bit of stress sometimes as well. But yeah, back to when we moved into the new house. A big reason too was the neighbors next door in the old apartment were just like up all night and noisy, and it just like was really not getting good sleep a lot, and I just was not feeling comfortable there at all. I just really wanted to get out of there, and I'm happy that Hannah was very open to that at the time. I think I feel kind of guilty about it in a way. I was really struggling a lot that year with the situation that happened in my family. I was really buying a lot of things that I wish I wouldn't have been buying a bunch of things, but there's a lot of music and stuff. I wanted to make my perfect record collection. It was like I was thinking just like being a perfectionist about things like that, and I was just buying too many things, trying to cope, I guess, in a way with the whole situation. And Hannah being so upset about the situation just made it worse. And I so that was something from that year that was happening a lot. And but we ended up moving out, getting the house. I was still struggling with that same thing, just buying a lot of music. And I guess I don't really know if I have regrets. I feel like we do things that we're gonna do anyways. I feel like we make the decisions we're gonna make so we can end up where we're gonna need to be at certain times in our life. but that was just, yeah, um, something that was going on, and that just never, it just didn't really end. I started getting a lot of tattoos as well at the end of 2022, and I really got sucked into that really quickly. I'd always wanted tattoos, and I was definitely getting too many too quickly. Got really sucked into that. I was pretty vulnerable at the time, I guess, for that to happen to me. I usually have better self-discipline than that, but I really fell into that. And I don't think I really regret that. I like all my tattoos a lot. I think tattoos are awesome. They're just super expensive. Um, but yeah, 2023, getting adjusted to the house. We're still having a good time. Our relationship was very strong, and we just like we were life partners at the time, and we were doing things together. But I think Hannah buying the house really gave her a big confidence boost. Like, hey, oh, I bought a house. Like, I have money. I'm successful. I'm doing all these things. And another thing, in 2021, she was actually had lost a lot of weight. She lost over 50 pounds actually. Some a decision she wanted to make for herself. Um, and I helped her with that journey, and very proud of her for doing that for herself. And so that mixed with um, buying the house and all that, being successful, having a job that paid a lot of money, she was definitely getting a good confidence boost, and I don't blame her. I think that's good that she had that. But um, I guess things really was, I guess I'd say it was May of last year, 2023. we went um, we went up to Philadelphia again to see Taylor Swift. That was actually a pretty exciting time. It was a fun show. I talked about that in my live music recap thing I did. Check that out if you're interested. But we stayed with her aunt and uncle again, and we had actually stayed there back in November the year before when we went to Thanksgiving. Had Thanksgiving with them. There's a whole bunch of people there. It was actually a really good time. I really enjoyed that Thanksgiving Day that year. But then the day after, I started feeling just something was wrong in the air for some reason. People looking at me weird, and I think in this next part I'm talking about in May of the next year is when I figured out that her family really didn't really like me that much. They were always looking down on me. I didn't go to college. I wasn't going to make a lot of money. Didn't want to. And I was looked at as a lower human being. And I think they were just like, why are you still with this person? Like, it's not going to be something that's going to happen in the future. And that's it, essentially exactly what her uncle ended up telling her one morning we were staying there in May, which was the day of the Taylor Swift concert. That morning, I was still upstairs. Hannah had gone downstairs to get some coffee, and her uncle said, like, hey, like, Tyler's probably not someone you want to be with for a long time. He's not educated, and you think about when you have kids in the future that he's not gonna be able to provide and do things. And that really upset her at the time. I remember that night after the Taylor Swift concert, I didn't really sense anything wrong when we went to the show and stuff. We had a good time. She said when we were going to sleep that night, I felt like ready to sleep. We got back late. She said she was up crying, and I had no idea. She told me all this when we got back, like a week after we got back or something. She said she didn't really want to tell me about it, but I guess I'm glad she did. And then, of course, the next week, her brother was graduating from college, and the uncle and aunt came down and I had to see them again right after that had happened. And Hannah and I had actually been down I think we'd gone to see another show. Yeah, we went to DC and then had to drive all the way to Williamsburg after that. So that was a bit of a trip. But so yeah, that was, I guess it wasn't a full week after. I think it was like right after we had gotten back from that trip, the Taylor Swift trip, that she told me. Um, but yeah, that situation really made me see the light on things. I guess I was like, oh shit, like your family actually does look down on me. I thought they actually kind of liked me and like were welcoming me, but I guess it never really was that. So that really upset me, um, and I was really struggling with that a bit. And Hannah, I know, was struggling with it as well. But that time was what ultimately led to us breaking up. Her breaking up with me this past October. Um, I guess that was the next big life thing that happened with me. That completely uprooted my whole life. We'd been living together for a long time. I saw a future with her. I wanted to get married, and that was another thing, I guess, that started our at the end of 2021. Our relationship started unraveling a little bit then too, for me, in a way, I guess, because I wanted to get married. Like, I was ready. I wanted to be with her forever. I just knew. I just always knew with her. I don't know what it was. Just something about her, but her hesitancy about it kind of just like drew me back. Like, oh, like it's always came down to the financial things. I know finances are important, but marriage, it's always something I've looked at as with love. You love somebody, you want to be with them, you want to commit to somebody, and she wasn't looking at it that way. Um, so, and that's ultimately what happened when we ended up breaking up. Came down to that. Like, she saw I was kind of just spending money on myself, and like I said, I shouldn't have been doing that, but I guess I was still just coping with things, coping with the relationship, her not wanting to commit to me, and my family, and that all just falling apart, and the whole family situation with her not being able to talk with my family, not being around my family anymore. She was so uncomfortable, and that was really upsetting to me because that was such an important thing. Like, I always wanted somebody to be close with my family, be able to close with my family too. But I mean, it wasn't a deal breaker for me, really, at all. Like, I would have been fine, like just me and her. But that was the most important thing. But she ultimately, I guess, chose her family over me, and her family values of making lots of money, having a fancy luxury lifestyle, and yeah. So has been was a big event, and really had never felt such an intense emotional um, turmoil as I experienced and am still dealing with now, from time to time. True grief. I've had people die, but in my life, but nothing like this loss is the most intense loss I've ever experienced. But some good has come from it. I think it's good for me to be on my own, as this is something I've always wanted, to be able to get by myself. I got a little nice apartment that I've kind of like always wanted something like this. It's a good little size for me. I like small spaces, and I can do whatever I want with my space. I can go and do whatever I want. Right now, I don't have to, but I also miss talking to her all the time. She was my comfort. She was my person that I could go to all the time and rely on. But now is the next era of my life. Getting adjusted to that as well. I've been feeling good about the job I have now. The job that I'm in now, actually started right at the end of 2021 as well. So that was another big life change that happened around that time, and I'm enjoying it. It wears me out a lot. I've like had times where I've not wanted to do the job anymore and look for something else, but right now I'm definitely really been feeling more confident and liking it. I want to stick with it. I kind of want to stick with this company. It seemed like a pretty good company to work for, small company. I'm in a good location. I can actually walk to work right now, which is great. I just have my own little world right here that's kind of excites me now. I've got music to look forward to always. Shows. I've got some good friends that I've been building relationships with as well, which is exciting. But yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys. The 2020 is not even halfway over yet, and it's already so much has happened. It's insane. Um, I'm not sure. I just don't know what life's gonna bring me next. There's a whole another 6 years of this decade, and lots of things can happen. They might not happen, but we'll just have to ride it out and see. That's the thing I really want to go with in life now, is really just going with the flow. Um, yeah, I just wanted to share that with you guys, with myself, my future self, I guess, to look back on this. Sorry, it was a very long video, but like I said, this things I like to talk about. I want to put them out there and talk about them. Um, but yeah, thank you for watching, and I want to do what I want to start doing at the end of my videos. A few endorsements from my friends. I'll put them down in the description as well, but I might put them on the screen here too. But my friend Sophie, Big Bad Mullet, please support her. She makes really incredible cat art, digital cat art, under the name Big Bad Mullet. So bigbadmullet.com, or Instagram at Big Bad Mullet. And then my other friend, who does a record label called Death Eternal. So if you're into black metal, dark music, industrial, London synth, stuff like that, definitely check out his record label. Bandcamp, deatheternalva.bandcamp.com, or at death.eternal on Instagram. So yep, thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you guys next time.